I'm Cecilia. I hop on here every Thursday and chit chat about some different topics around mental health wellness. So thanks for tuning in. Today, I want to talk all things intimacy. So I'm talking to those of you in relationships. Been a lot of struggle with intimacy that I've been hearing lots about, and there's a reason for it. So we are in a prolonged stress response. I've talked about stress responses before in some past videos. Check them out if you've missed them. But the thing about stress is that it increases our stress hormone. So stress hormone is cortisol. And what happens with cortisol is that it's meant to be there. It's a really great thing. It really helps us manage all of our bodily functions during a stressful time. So things like insulin and blood sugar levels and heart rate and blood pressure. It's a fantastic thing. What's not fantastic is when we are in a prolonged state of stress, which means that our levels of cortisol are really, really high over a prolonged period of time. Now, that is all of us at this point, just with the pandemic, but all the other complicated factors that come with it. Our cortisol levels are super high. Now, when cortisol levels are too high, it leads to fatigue, it leads to headaches and all these physical symptoms. There'll be some content next week on our social all about the physical symptoms of it. But the one thing that's on that list is also it really kills your sex drive. So because it's meant to, if you think about it. So from stressful times, we're trying to deal with a threat in front of us. And so our body makes that decision. But there are some ways to increase or rebuild your intimacy in your relationship. So I've got 3 tips for you of things that you can do to move in that direction. So tip number 1 is create some anticipation. Now, it is the one thing that has really killed anticipation in relationships is in quarantine because we're all together. So there's no separateness. There's no time to anticipate coming home or having a conversation or telling a story or having those laughs together or looking forward to dinner out or a social event. Quarantine in this pandemic has really killed anticipation in relationships, and we're all feeling it. So you want to think about creating some anticipation in your relationship again. Now, it doesn't have to be overly complicated, but what you want is to create a little bit of that distance that creates that heightened response of wanting to see your partner. The one thing you can do is to reduce the amount of communication you're having throughout the day. So reduce the amount of texting that you're having throughout the day. What that does is it creates an anticipation for a face-to-face conversation. It gives you something to talk about when you see each other. So many couples are in constant communication. They're texting, calling all day long. So when they see each other again, there's really nothing to catch up on. There's no anticipation. There's nothing to look forward to. Now, we often forget that the cell phones and texting and smartphones, that is like a recent phenomenon. We have so much history of not having that much communication with our spouses and our partners, and lack of communication throughout the day where we have our own experiences and then we get to share them creates an anticipation of wanting to spend time with our partner. So you want to bring in some ways to create some more anticipation. The second thing you want to ask yourself or consider or have a conversation in your relationship about is about desire. So desire has probably gone like in the toilet during this pandemic for you and your partner and in your relationship. You probably have got kids at home. They're home all the time. Some of them are home, like you homeschooled them for so long. They didn't really like have a really great summer. There's so many restrictions. You can't really do anything. So you're constantly being bombarded and desire just goes through the toilet. So I really want you to think about what makes you feel desirable by your partner. So what does your partner do or used to do that would make you feel desirable in that relationship? So it made you feel attractive, made you feel just like a desirable human being in that relationship. And then I really want you to think about what makes you feel desirable. Like, what do you do for yourself that makes you feel desirable, that makes you feel attractive, that makes you feel like a sexual human being on this planet? I think a lot of us have lost track of that. We're working from home, wearing pajamas or tights all the time. So there's things that we're not contributing to around feeling and connecting to our desire as humans. And the last thing I want to tell you, so tip number 3, is you need to schedule it. You need to schedule connection and intimacy. And there's a lot of resistance around this, around like, I don't want to schedule that. It should be spontaneous. And in some respects, yes, it's fun to have spontaneity. I'm going to challenge you to think about this. When you first started dating your partner, your spouse, the person you're in a relationship with, You schedule things. You schedule dates, you schedule time, and you look forward to things. You anticipate it. So you'd shave your legs, you'd take a shower, you'd groom yourself, you'd dress a certain way. Those are all scheduled things that we move towards. It was something we were looking forward to. There's anticipation towards it. We would do things that would make us feel desirable. And then we would schedule something and have time with this other person. And so in scheduling, times for connection and intimacy is really important because it makes it a priority. You schedule everything in your life. Everything is probably on a calendar on your phone or a pen to paper calendar. You schedule everything. So why not schedule some time for intimacy? Make that time sacred and uninterruptible. And it allows space for that connection to happen when it's kind of gone by the wayside. I hope this was helpful. I hope you find some time, sort of some great intimacy and rebuilding that in your relationship. And I will see you next week.